Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Mr. Farney Earth Science video. Here in this video, we are starting our Geologic Time Unit, where not only will we be looking at Earth's 4.6 billion years worth of history, but we're going to learn a little bit about how we can age how old different types of material are, different types of rocks, different types of fossils, using different principles in relative dating and absolute dating. Throughout the process, we'll learn a bit about what makes up a fossil, kind of how that whole process happens, and a little bit of information about each of those different separate time periods over that really long 4.6 billion years worth of time. So there's a lot of information within this unit. So I really want to stress to make sure that when I do post up that study guide, when we get closer to the test, to use that study guide so you can see exactly what you want to focus on from this unit. If you look at this PowerPoint, there's 78 some slides containing within it. So you want to make sure that you do pay attention to what I'm pointing out are the key points, and then just kind of filling in the blanks as we go. So this first video is going to be very short. There's not a lot to talk about. It's just kind of introducing us this idea of geologic time, how old the planet is, and a couple of terms to kind of get us thinking about really how long of a period of time we're talking about here. So we got to start with the rock record. How old is the Earth? The Earth is 4.6 billion with a B, billion years old. And that's a really long period of time. And because it's such a long period of time, presents scientists with a problem. How do I effectively study that really long period of time? You can't sit down and say, I'm going to study 4.6 billion years worth of time. It's just unfeasible. So what scientists do is they break down that 4.6 billion years into much smaller, much more manageable sections or segments based on different types of geological events that occurred, like rock formation, rock deformation, plate tectonics moving, supercontinents like Pangea coming together, breaking apart, meteorite impacts, things of that nature as far as like geological events occur. Environmental conditions, ice ages, global warming events, mass extinctions, different species taking over different areas, the organisms going from the ocean onto land, going from single cell organisms to multicellular organisms. All of these different smaller events or environmental conditions scientists use to, further deconstruct or break down that 4.6 billion years into smaller segments. And the last bit of information they use is on fossilized life forms. Were my majority of fossils in this section of time? Are they of marine animals? Are they plants? Are they evidence of single cell organisms? Are they dinosaurs? Are they mammoths? Are they reptiles? Are they bugs? All of these things come into play to give scientists a little more information about what was occurring in each of those smaller segments of Earth's history. So we got to start big. We're going to start big and we're going to go small. The first two big eons, or I should say the only two big eons that we're going to concern ourselves about with are the Precambrian and the Phanerozoic. Say Phanerozoic. We got a whole lot of fun words that we're going to use throughout the Geologic Time Unit here. And these are just the first two, Precambrian or Phanerozoic. These two eons put together equal our 4.6 billion years worth of Earth's history. The Precambrian is 4.1 billion years long, and the Phanerozoic, more recent, the last 500 million years. If we look at the definition here of an eon, it's the longest unit of geologic time that can span hundreds of millions of years through billions of years. So the Precambrian, that's that billion category there, 4.1 billion. Phanerozoic, that is our much smaller 500 million years. Do these words have meaning to you yet? No, I don't think so, but we'll get there in a second. We can break the eons down further into different eras. We can break eras down into periods and periods into epochs. So if we were to give a kind of geological timeline location of where we are down to the smallest unit, our geological place is within the Phanerozoic eon, in the Cenozoic era, in the Quaternary period, and then in the Holocene epoch. So that is our geologic place in time right now. It doesn't mean so much if we just use words, but if we look at the picture here, here's the entire geological time scale spread out in a very, very simplistic form. The red section, that's our Precambrian. That's our 4.1 billion years worth of time. That's 90% of Earth's history. What was going on during this time was Earth's formation. We had the emergence of our first single cell organisms all the way up until we started, developing an atmosphere and going from single cell to multicellular life. Here in the Phanerozoic era, much more exciting things were happening. This is why we can actually break this down further. We have more current evidence of things that were happening in the Phanerozoic than in the Precambrian. But then this leads me to one question. Why do we actually have more evidence, or we're able to study the Phanerozoic way more than the Precambrian? You would think, well, if the Precambrian is 4.1 billion years, we should have more information. Well, if we think about plate tectonics and how those plates move, it's kind of a constant cycle of cycling that rock material through subduction as the continents move around. Most of that material has already cycled back into the Earth's mantle, melted down, and it's come back up to the surface in other forms. So most of the material that was Precambrian before our Phanerozoic eon, it doesn't exist on the planet anymore. It's been recycled. So very few bits of information that we currently have about the Precambrian to give us info. That's why we can't break it down as far as we can in the Phanerozoic. So hopefully that begins to start making a little bit of sense. If I were to draw where we were on this screen, let me get my little blue color, we would be probably about here. I know, right at the front there in the Holocene. We have not been around too long, so I'll even be generous. I'll kind of shade in half the Holocene there. I have to look at the exact time for the Holocene to see, but it's been a minute. Okay, so that's where we live right there. If I were to go back a slide and then point out on here where humans showed up, I would draw my same blue line, if I can find my drawing button. Where's my drawing button? Can I get my drawing? Well, I can't find my drawing button right now. I don't know how I lost it. Well, if I were to draw that line, it'd be right here, right up against the border between the Cenozoic and nothing. So we'd be right up there at the front if we were to label where humans were on this chart. So again, we have the Precambrian eon and the Phanerozoic eon, and we live right here at the very most recent epoch of the Phanerozoic eon. So that's going to conclude our video today on, just kind of introducing geologic time and looking at the geologic time scale. If you have any questions for me, please let me know. If not, check back in our next video where we're going to start talking about relative age dating and how scientists use certain principles that we're going to talk about to figure out how old different rock layers are in relation to one another, just so they can better understand when different geological events have occurred in the past and the correct sequence in which they occurred. So have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.